you guys on the webinar. I'm actually going live into my Instagram right now with this same, same training, same personal development session. So hey in Instagram, hey guys on the call. So for you guys on Instagram, this is my our team call. One of us does a personal development piece every Monday. Thank God it's Monday, just to kind of set us up for the week in a really positive way. So tonight we're going to be talking about overcoming fear. We've got some notes here, and I guess some subtopics on that, and then kind of opening up with some questions for you guys, because I think when it comes to fear, we have to question ourselves a little bit to understand ourselves, because it really is an inside job, and it's something that we have to reflect on often, and why we're scared, and start to ask those questions. Because I guess when it comes to motivation to go forth and do something that scares you, it always comes down to one thing. It's either the fear of the action or the pleasure. Is the pleasure more powerful than the pain? It's either one or the other. And if the pleasure is more powerful than the pain of taking the action, then of course you're going to do it. But if it's vice versa, then it's not. So we have to chip away at the pain side of things and try to enhance the pleasure side of things to be able to move forward and I guess, take those steps into overcoming our fear. And the other thing I just want you guys to note, we're not going to talk about, is, no growth happens unless we're getting uncomfortable. So if you're comfortable every single day, you won't be evolving as a human being. So it's really important to understand that, and understand that if you're not happy where you're at right now, in any one of the areas of your goals, physically, mentally, financially, for anything that's a worthwhile goal to you, it means that you're not getting uncomfortable on the pursuit of that goal. So that's something we need to address. And generally that's because we're scared of either the action or maybe the outcome, of taking the action. So it comes down for me, first we have to be aware. We have to be aware that we are fearful and it is holding us back, because if we're not aware of it, how can we address it? So it's something that we have to be aware of, something we have to think about, not spend too much time on, but think about ways to be able to take the action to realize that it's actually not such a scary thing. And, we're going to talk a little bit about, a lot of the examples I use, because I'm a Herbalife distributor. If you guys on Instagram didn't know that, you guys on the call definitely do. So a lot of my examples are kind of about that, because that's what I know. So, for example, why can't we go forth and talk to people? Why do people walk past us every day and we don't have that conversation about how we can help them? But these guys could be the next people that enhance our business and bring those skills in that we don't currently have, that takes us to the next level. So why don't we do that? And these are really important questions to ask. But if we don't know that we're not taking that action because we are scared, then we can never kind of address it. So the first way to move forward and overcome your fears, for me, is actually being aware that you have them, right? Secondly, I guess it's your attitude towards it as well. What's your relationship like with fear? And these are just questions that you guys can answer, go away and maybe have a think about. I just want to kind of open these doors, in your own brain, to just have to think about what's your relationship with it. Do you see fear as something that you kind of welcome, something that you that is like a challenge for you, and it makes you hungry and makes you really psyched up and inspires you? Or is, when a challenge comes along, is it the opposite? Is that scary? Do you kind of run away and hide? Do you not want to embrace that? Do you spend so much time thinking about the fear that it just enhances? And I know we've all been in that boat with something or other. There's a saying that time fuels fear. So generally with most things, if we address it quickly and we realize that, hey, that wasn't actually that scary, we've learned, got uncomfortable, grown, and that fear kind of gets lower and lower and lower. So until it just becomes, I don't think fears ever go away, to be honest, and unless they're kind of really minor things. I think we can overcome them and kind of squish them into a corner of our mind where they're no longer inhibiting us to actually take action and move forward and grow and get better, right? And move towards our goals. So I guess the next kind of question I want to ask you guys is when it comes a time in your life where you do have to take that action, it might even be something like a really uncomfortable situation that you know you should address, like in regards to a relationship with someone, and talking to people, for example, or talking to people you didn't agree with what they did, or what they did was hurtful for you. You know, we've all been in those situations. Are you one that actually addresses it in a positive way and has that conversation, or are you someone that kind of leaves that? And then what I generally find, if these things aren't addressed straight up, you know, they grow and they grow and they grow, and things get worse and worse and worse because they were never kind of addressed at the start. So it's really important. What does that little voice in your head tell you when it's time to have these conversations that kind of get you uncomfortable, right? Because I think a lot of human fear is actually revolves around other human beings. It doesn't actually revolve around things kind of that scare us. A lot of that stuff's kind of survival stuff, right? Because, you know, what is fear initially? Fear was put in human beings as a survival thing, you know. So when we were cavemen, for example, and we were developing these things, I can't mute them. When we were cavemen, guys, these things were put into us to protect us, right? So for example, the emotion of fear would come along, a big dinosaur would come along, we would run away because we'd be scared, or, for example, we'd be walking towards a cliff, we wouldn't jump off because we'd have that fear of jumping off. So that's kind of how fear come about. But I think most of it these days holds us back because of the human interaction with other human beings and what they might think, you know, what they might do, and all these kind of 50-50 type of situations that, you know, we're making a lot of assumptions on. You know, and I think assumptions, you know, time fuels fear, but assumptions, you know, because we have that time to think about it, also fuel fear as well. So if we address those really quickly and straight off the bat, and don't let that time enhance things, then of course we're going to be better off, and we're not going to be able to. We're going to be able to move quickly towards our goals rather than letting that time slow us down. So, I guess so that's like the two of the components there: awareness, and just to kind of sum up for you guys, an attitude. These are like the subheadings, and the next one I think that helps us overcome fear is our whys and our goals. Because if our whys are really strong and our goals are There we go. If our whys are really strong and our goals are really, really important to us, of course it's going to pull us to take the actions that are going to help us overcome those fears, right? So, you know, some questions we have to ask ourselves in regards to our whys and our goals, like, do they inspire us? Do they like fire us up when we think about actually achieving those goals? Do they like light that burning desire? You know, do we think about these things when we wake up and when we're going to sleep at night? Do they motivate us? Do they drive us? Do they really narrow our focus on our goals and achieving those things? And then what you find is, you know, we don't even think about those fears because we're so fired up about the attainment of our goals and why we're actually moving towards them, that we don't even have time to think about our fears, guys. And all of a sudden we're doing all these things that when we reflect, you know, maybe 3 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, maybe 12 months ago, that we wouldn't have even thought that we'd be doing. Like, it's quite crazy. Like, for example, if you're starting on a fitness journey, you know, you might start walking, and you've got that really firm goal because you have to, right? It's a health thing. The doctor said, dude, if you don't lose weight, you know, things are going to go bad for you. So it's inspired us to do it. So we start walking, and then we start running, and then we start going to the gym, and all of a sudden we're, you know, 12 months down the track with this person that's doing all this stuff that, you know, the person 12 months ago wouldn't have even thought that would be possible before that inspiration, right? So we've got to have really strong whys and really strong goals. Your reasons need to be able to crush your excuses on doing things as well. Excuses are just another form of fear that's regurgitated through communication from humans, right? So they're kind of like the fears in your brain coming out verbally of why you don't want to do things. So we need really strong reasons to be able to crush those excuses. And the other thing we need to consider, guys, is our goals and the attainment of them. A lot of them, especially when they're short term. Generally, when we set goals, we've got a really big goal, and then all these little steps on the way to that goal. So, for example, if someone had to lose 30 kilos, that's a really big chunk to be able to do. But if they broke them down in the 5 kilo increments, then it's goal achieved, goal achieved, goal achieved. And what we find is we affirm success because we're being able to tick off these goals and in attainment to what we're trying to do, right? So, success, one of my mentors, George Knight, says, success isn't a destination, it's the movement towards the goals. And that's what actually causes us to be happy. If we feel like we're progressing, progress is happiness. So if human beings feel like they're progressing and they're moving towards their goals and they're evolving, they're generally happy. If someone's unhappy, guys, ask them what their goals are. Generally, they won't have any, or they won't have any in the area that they're unhappy. So they need to set really important goals for them, and they need to search deep in their souls and think about what they really want out of their life. And then they have to put a plan into place. And once they start executing that plan, I can guarantee you their happiness will increase. So that's whys and goals. And we're going to be really quick because, we're on here and we don't have heaps of time. But if you guys have any questions on this, on Instagram, just send them through and I'll try to answer them as quickly as I can. The next one for me in regards to overcoming your fears is association. Who are you hanging around? Do they inspire you? Do they lift you up? Do they do things that you think are scary, and then you see that and you're like, well, maybe it's not so scary. I know when I first started with Herbalife, we used to sit up the back of the room. I remember the first ever Adelaide event we went to, which is like our Herbalife Grand Final for you guys who don't know, on Instagram. And we sat up the back, and there was all these people going across this stage, and they were speaking and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, these guys are addressing like 5,000 people or 3,000, 4,000 people. This is amazing and stuff like that. And then, these people I've become friends with later on down the track, and they really inspired me to take the next step and to go. And, last month in May, we're on stage in front of 12,000 people, so it's amazing how you evolve when you hang around people that are doing what you want to do better than you, and how you pick up those attributes that you might be lacking, that causes you to be inspired, take that action that gets you uncomfortable. But when you're actually hanging around these people that are doing it all the time, it doesn't seem like it's uncomfortable, because that's just a perception. So if you're hanging around people that are just doing it and they're doing it well, you remove that kind of that limiting belief in your own mind that it's actually a hard thing to do, and then you do it kind of more easily, right? So you overcome those fears easier because people are doing, I guess, what makes you scared, and you're seeing that all the time. All of a sudden it comes not so scary. For example, in our Herbalife communities, if your goal's weight loss, again, I seem to be using that a lot tonight, but you see all these people and they're sharing their stories and they're losing weight, and people in the room have tried a few things and it hasn't worked, and all of a sudden now they're scared to try new things, and they're hearing all the people and all the testimonials like Tash, she's lost 20 kilos, and it's just like, whoa, I can do this, because they're hanging around people that are doing what they want to do better than them, right? So it's really important with our association that we're hanging around people that inspire us, but also hanging around people that help us conquer our fears, and can have those conversations with us on why we're not actually moving towards where we want to be. It's super, super important. And I think the last thing, there's so many things that help us overcome fears, guys. These are just like my top 4 or 5 things for the sake of time. But the last thing is understanding failure and what that actually means. Because, if we're not failing, guys, we're not moving forward, and we're not going to learn new things. And if we see failures as lessons, not actual failures, like it's a bad thing, we're going to move towards our goals and overcome our fears. Our fears might get cut, like that. They won't be as scary. Let's say your fear's like 100% on the fear factor, and then all of a sudden you have an understanding of failure, and you're like, well, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen if you start a health journey? You pick up some healthy habits. Like there's when you actually question it and you understand that fear or that that failure is just the other side of success. If you had that mindset where you're learning from your failures, they're actually not failures; they're just those lessons. So it's a win-win thing, and you can't achieve anything, guys, from life if you're not actually taking that mass action where you can actually fail a bit so you can learn. And failures, it's like night and day in regards to success, failure, night and day. Black and white. I don't know what else. Vegemite and cheese if you're Australian, I guess. Like all those things. Like LeBron and the Celtics, for example, they're like polar opposite. One's a winner, one's a loser. So it's important that we understand that there's a relationship there. And if we're not feeling the pinch and we're not feeling those moments where we're uncomfortable and things aren't going the best, we definitely don't have big goals. And we definitely we're not taking the action towards them in enough value that we're actually going to be able to achieve them. So we need to be able to understand that failure is a part of success. And if that's the case, when we relate that back to overcoming our fears, well, there's no real reason to be scared, is there? It's just part of the process. So guys, that's so we need to be able to embrace that. So guys, that's TGIM tonight, overcoming fear. Hopefully you guys got a bit out of it. We're going to open it up for questions here, and maybe there if Bobby can read them out. There's a few there. If anyone has any questions, just fire them through, and we'll be able to cover them, as best as we can. Just doing a selfie. So we'll just wait because these get fired through. If you guys have one, you could just ask it, I guess, because they'll be able to hear, right? True that.
What was the what's it called? What's FEAR stand for again?
No idea. Did I use it?
Yeah, false evidence.
Oh, false evidence appearing real.
Yeah, that's what fear is, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Correct. Because our brain makes it appear real, right? So we think about it too much. Is that a question on that?
No.
Oh, just being smart. Cool. So we got a question here from Whitney. Do you have any tactics you use to overcome fear on the spot, like count down to 5, etc., before you talk to someone? Someone in the street, for example. No, what I do, and what always works for me every single time, is I look at the situation, and if it's something that makes me scared, I ask myself just one simple question: what's the worst that can happen here? And then I actually think about it, and generally the answer is, well, like for your example, Whitney, like if in the street, what they say, no, I don't want to come to a free workout. Okay, it doesn't really affect my day. To be honest, sure, I'd love them to come, but if they don't want to achieve any health goals, we can't help them anyway. So they're probably just doing me a favor, So I just ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? But then I always think as well, what's the best that can happen? Like the other side of the coin, right? Like that person could come, they could get on products, they could lose 30 kilos and become my next when Herbalife Lingo president's team member, right? Or next superstar in my business. That brings a whole bunch of stuff to the party that we've never thought of before. Changes the game. So then there's always that side of the coin as well. So what's the worst that can happen? That's a good question to ask yourself. So there's a question here by Bobby. So Matt, I'm guessing. If you have an opportunity slide away, is it too late to achieve that goal? No, I don't think so. I don't think so because, you know, if you've got a goal and you work hard enough, you can achieve it. Just kind of depends what slides away, I guess. But you can always, it depends on the goal as well, of course. There's lots of variables there. But no, I don't think anything's too late to be able to achieve. I think that's just a mindset. What about fear of achieving your goals? I think if you've got fear of achieving your goals, they're not goals from your heart. Like they're not really worthwhile to you. Like they don't inspire you. You know, like they're not, like they're just kind of numbers on the page or something. Like they're not like when we're setting goals, I think they need to be a few things predetermined and worthwhile, and that's relative to everyone's going to have different perspectives on that. But if they're really worthwhile to you, I don't think there's going to be fear of achieving them. You know, because you really want it, and then you won't have that fear. Yeah, you might have a fear of taking the action to be able to achieve it, but that's a different story. That's something that can be overcome. And generally, it's like a 1 foot after the other proposition as well, isn't it? You know, like how do you eat an elephant 1 bite at a time type of thing. If you look at it and you're like, well, that's a big elephant, but got to start somewhere, right? Okay, so Kel's got, how did you overcome, if you had any, your fear in the beginning of Herbalife running training, speaking in front of the audience? I don't even think I did overcome it. I think I just jumped in there and did it. And the first time was ordinary, but just kind of kept doing it. And even now I get scared speaking in front of a group. Like on stage in Singapore, before we went out there for like 3 hours, I was pooping my pants. You guys see me in the car on the way there. I said, I think I'm going to be sick, you know? But that might have been because it was like 90 degrees and I was wearing a suit as well. So, but I don't think, I think some things, like I've just come to the realization that that's always going to be a scary thing for me. And I think public speaking in front of massive groups is scary for everyone unless you've got heaps of experience. So like just as the example, so I just welcome that because I know that's just part of the process for me. And I know I can, once I understand that fear is part of the process, I can use those, what's the word? Those emotions or those, that chemical thing that's happening in my brain to my advantage. And like before I get on stage, I can kind of channel it and get out there and just kind of do my thing and just speak from my heart and hopefully deliver a good message. So, so to answer your questions, I haven't overcome them. I've just channeled them. Like I kind of said at the start, I don't think you ever overcome it, true fears, but you can use them, or you can kind of push them away to the back of your mind so they're not, you just don't want your fears to inhibit you. Like fear's a natural thing. You're never going to get rid of it. But you can let it stop you from doing things that grow you as a person. So we've got one here. How important, from Matt again, how important is writing down goals and steps towards them, then physically ticking them off to you? I think that's really important. I think if you've got goals and you can write them on paper, you can achieve them. So, generally what I do is I set like a really big goal and then I reverse engineer that goal into smaller goals that are going to move me towards it so it doesn't seem that far away. And then when you're crossing these things off, you're really kind of affirming success. And that can be done all the way down to daily, when you set like an imperative list and you write down those things that you have to do every single day that are going to move you towards your goal. So, for example, if was if you're really, what was really worthwhile to you was getting into amazing shape. Of course, you'd write eating healthy. You'd definitely write something to do with improving your mindset. You'd write stuff about obviously exercising and the way you want to exercise every single day. And then when you cross those things off, you're really kind of affirming in your own mind that you're successful. So I think that's really, really important to write down your goals and tick off things that, on a daily basis that are affirming you towards them. Because that just puts in your own mind that you're successful. And if you're thinking you're successful, you're going to attract success and towards your goals, right? So, I think that's really, really important. Belinda Marsh wrote, do you find that you can have a fear in one aspect of your life but not an issue in other aspects of your life, e.g. having difficult conversation in business life compared to personal life? Yeah, I do, but I think that's just kind of like a mindset as well, right? Like from a Herbalife perspective, can you invite someone to a barbecue? Yeah, no problem. Like if you were having a barbie and you knew that thing was going to be funded, you're going to have all the food catered for, someone else was paying, of course, and all your drinks and stuff all catered for, and you had a big venue and you wanted heaps and heaps of people there, you would invite like crazy, right? So I think that comes down to, in your mind, knowing you offer a worthwhile service and a worthwhile product and a worthwhile opportunity. If you really, really believe that and you're passionate about that, I think that it's one and the same. It's just kind of what's behind, what's going on mentally with someone over what's actually the case, right? So I do think people put things in different folders in their brain, and I think it just depends on the person how important that kind of folder is, and that kind of comes out in the passion in your voice and your invites as well. So yeah, I do think that's a thing, But I also think that's an easy thing to overcome if you're asking yourself the right questions. Good questions, guys. 2 on fire. Let you guys go. Cool. So what we might do, we'll keep these questions coming. So if you guys have them, keep throwing them up, and we're just going to shut this one off. So guys, thank you for joining tonight. Hopefully you guys got some value out of that. If you did, I'd love your feedback. Thank you. Have a good night. No, you guys, you stay. Kelly's waving. She's like, I'm out of here. Running out the door. 46 viewers. There you go. Famous. I'm going to be like the next, who's famous on Instagram? Quentin.
Wow.
What was that? I don't know what you're showing. Cool, guys. Do you guys have any other questions? Is that all good? Alrighty, cool. If you have any, like normal guys, you can just send them through or ask them in the comments bit, right? But if you guys are going to tag people in it, don't just tag them and leave them with nothing. Talk to them first and then tag them in them like everything, right? Cool, guys. Have a good night. See ya.